WWE 2K may soon be making its return to the Nintendo Switch with the release of the Nintendo Switch 2. So Nintendo just announced the sequel to the Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Switch 2. Think you get the idea by the name. And just like any console we've gotten in the past with a number, example PS4 to PS5, the main selling point is usually the hardware inside, not on the outside. So obviously these systems still have like outside selling points. Like the PS5's big selling point was the haptic feedback in the controllers, like the triggers. If you're like running on like a dirt terrain, you would like be able to tell that in the triggers rather than if you was running on like water like you was Jesus. I don't know. Like if you was swimming or you was walking on grass, if you was driving on the road, like you would feel different sensations in the controller. But that was really about it when it came to like the outside. The main reason you would be buying a PS5 isn't because of this like cool feature. It was because that the internal hardware was absolutely insane. The PS5 is very comparable to a very decent gaming PC. It can run games at 4K resolution, 120 frames per second. That's in comparison to games on the PS4, which couldn't even run at half the resolution and half the frame rate at times. And that's kind of what we're getting with the Switch 2. We're all used to Nintendo systems just having insanely weak hardware. The Wii was about as powerful as a PS2. The Wii U was as powerful as a PS3. The Switch itself still wasn't even as powerful as a PS4. But with the release of the Switch 2, this could be close to the power of a PS4 Pro. And you may be thinking, like, we're on the PS5 now. Like, the Switch 2 not even being significantly more powerful than the last gen systems. Like, what are we doing? But you gotta think how insane it is for a handheld console to be as powerful as the PS4 Pro. Now, I'm not saying it is as powerful. It may be a little less, a little more. But these leaked specs that we got from GameSpot and Digital Foundry reported that the Switch 2 may use NVIDIA's new custom variant T239 processor. The site compiled a PC on what is believed the Switch 2 specs could be and found that it could capably run Death Stranding at 1080p at an average of 35 frames per second. That is fucking crazy, bro. Death Stranding is one of the most demanding games from the PS4 era. And when we're talking about a PC that is based off the specs of the Switch 2, that is a PC build where the game running on it isn't fully optimized for that exact rig. So basically how it works is, say you built a PC with the exact same specs as a PS5. Like 1-to-1, it runs the exact same, same specs. But the actual performance that you're gonna get out of that PC would not be comparable to what you get out of the PS5. And you may be confused because they're the exact same specs, but that's because when a developer develops a game specifically for one system, they can optimize it, meaning that the code that they program and the overall performance of the game, it was worked on specifically for that exact system. Releasing a PC game, you can't go particularly on seeing if it will run perfectly on this specific hardware build, because you have to make it run for 1,000 different components. So for a PC that isn't running a optimized version of Death Stranding, be able to handle 1080p at 35 frames per second, meaning 1080p is still pretty decent graphics. Like, I know we're spoiled with 4K, but 1080p is still very much high definition, and 30 FPS and above is still playable, even though I prefer 60. So say that the company who made Death Stranding made a port for the Switch 2, I'm sure it would run even better. And Death Stranding is way more demanding of a game than anything WWE will come out with. WWE 2K25 is still going to run on the PS4, which is less powerful than the Switch 2 is going to be. We had the big controversy with WWE 2K18 because that game didn't run well at all. It ran like shit. Like 20 FPS, 15 FPS, like that's a freaking slideshow. You would literally be like watching John Cena's entrance on the Switch version and his theme song would loop back to the beginning because his theme song was shorter than the entrance was. That's how slow the game performed, and on top of that, the graphics were terrible. Now, I'm sure if they really tried their hardest, they could have gotten 2K18 running perfectly fine on the Switch, but 2K did not want to invest the resources. They actually gave 2K18 Switch port off to a smaller studio and told them to develop it. So you have this smaller studio with less manpower working on porting the game over to the Nintendo Switch, and then they have like these insanely rushed deadlines because I think that they didn't even make the decision to put 2K18 on Switch until very much during the development cycle. And yeah, they didn't get proper time for it, and they're just like, fuck, we gotta release it, which was an awful decision. And 2K just decided, like, yeah, we could probably, spend a lot of time making sure 2K19 runs well on Switch, but with all the backlash of 2K18, it probably won't even sell that well, and they just abandoned the Switch. They did release WWE 2K Battlegrounds, but does anyone even remember that game came out? So yeah, we basically got nothing on the Switch from WWE. We have gotten some, like, wrestling games, some other companies, but man, it's just not the same. Now that the Switch 2 is very comparable to what the system is already coming out on, the PS4 and the Xbox One, it's actually more powerful than those. If 2K wanted to, they don't even have to spend an excessive amount of effort. They can put WWE 2K26 on the Switch 2. And even if they decide, okay, 2K26 is going to be our first game not on the PS4 or Xbox One, it can still get a Switch 2 port. Because one, you gotta think, the Xbox Series S is also severely underpowered compared to the X and the PS5. Technically, in some ways, not in every way. It's still like, I say overall, the Xbox Series S is more powerful, but in some ways it's actually less powerful than the Xbox One X. So for people that are confused by all these different names, I know Microsoft's terrible at naming consoles, the Pro version of the last generation of Xbox actually is more powerful in some ways than the cheaper version of the current generation. And there's literally no choice for 2K. They gotta make sure it works on Xbox Series S if they want it on Xbox at all. Microsoft does not allow companies to just put the game only on Xbox Series X. And some companies, in a protest of this, have made their games PS5 exclusives, but a sports game company is never gonna do that unless like it's literally being developed by the console manufacturer. And even then, PlayStation did bring MLB to the Xbox as well. So basically, 2K games are always going to be held back by the Xbox Series S for probably another decade. And it's not even necessarily held back because the Xbox Series S can still run games great. It could run the games that perform at 4K 120 FPS on the Series X capably still at 1080p. I own an Xbox Series S. It's really fun to play on. It runs great, and it's even going to be able to handle GTA 6. So technically the Switch 2 probably could handle GTA 6, but I don't think they will do it because the Switch 2 will still be a little less powerful than the Series S, and it uses a different architecture, so I don't think Rockstar will bother with the port, but hypothetically, it could probably handle a dumbed-down version. And then also, 2K will always have to make sure that their games run on hundreds, if not thousands of different PC builds. It isn't smart for a sports game company with, a lot of people buying the games every year to buy the game on their PC, and then one year the game just doesn't run well anymore because since they dropped the older systems, it just is too much for their PC to handle now. Because technically, people on PC are still running a game that can run on a PS4, but once that game is on PS4, is it going to be made so that it is way too taxing on the system and this big open game that now that PC can't handle it? That would just be bad for the consumer. And in a business perspective, 2K won't make the game so complex that it can't run on PCs that already handle 2K24. Like maybe like the lower end ones, those will leave, but someone with like a mid-tier PC should still be able to run 2K26. And why I keep mentioning 2K26 is that the Switch 2 will come out probably in the summertime, and I don't see 2K porting 2K25 over. They could, but I think if they were to do it, it would just be with 2K26. And I would really like to see this because WWE 2K24 already runs great on the Steam Deck. The Steam Deck is what we call a handheld gaming PC. So it looks exactly like a handheld gaming console. It performs like a handheld gaming console. You turn on the Steam Deck, it brings you to a UI just like a console does. You have your store, your game library. Someone who has never used a PC or computer before can pick up a Steam Deck, play PC games and they wouldn't be confused at all. It literally is the same experience you would get on a Switch, but it just happens to be running PC native games. And it can handle 2K24 at 60 FPS, full speed, the resolution 720p, which, because the Steam Deck screen is 720p. I have run 2K24 at 1080p on the TV. Obviously, you're not running this at like ultra graphics, but I can run it at low to medium settings. It doesn't look bad, and it's a blast to play. So if the Steam Deck can handle it, the Switch 2 can, because the Switch 2 is like gonna be similar to Steam Deck in power. The Steam Deck is already, I think, slightly more powerful than a PS4, around that PS4 Pro range too. But the rumors do say the Switch 2 will actually exceed it in power, which does make sense. The Switch 2 is a 2025 product. Steam Deck's like 2022, I think. It's, you know, specs are always getting better, so 3 years is a big difference. So we already have portable ways to play the game. The Switch 2 is comparable to systems that already get WWE games. So I just hope that 2K takes another shot at it. I know 2K18 was such a disaster on Switch, but do not think of this as the same thing. This would absolutely not be WWE 2K18 on the Switch all over again. The Switch was underpowered when it came out. The Switch 2 is actually supposed to be like decent for the time. Now, if we come back here in 5 years at the end of the Switch 2, it may start to be underpowered in comparison to the PS6 and the current generation of handheld gaming PCs. That's not really a problem we have now, and 2K does have alternatives to when that situation arises. FIFA, for the first couple years of the Switch's life, FIFA 18 and FIFA 19, they made Switch ports of the game because the version of FIFA on Switch 1 was kind of comparable to the PS3 version. I know that's kind of crazy, but that's just how underpowered the Switch 1 is. And then once they stopped making the game for PS3, they stopped making the game for Switch as well. They would release a new game every year, but it would be the Legacy Edition. So FIFA 20 Legacy Edition was technically just FIFA 19 with a new roster. And I know that got insane levels of backlash, and I'm sure if 2K did that too, it would get even more backlash. Me personally though, it's like, you just don't have to buy it, you know? It may be upsetting that WWE 2K29 is not on the Switch, but they just did 28 with the new roster. But I would just be glad that we ever did get WWE games on the Switch. If they can handle it, I want it. If it can't handle it, then that's when it's time to stop. The ability to play this on the TV like the regular console, no tinkering, no changing graphics settings, and then being able to lift it out of the dock, play it on the go. I know that concept is kind of old at this point. The Switch has been out for 8 years now. Holy shit, I am old. We never really got to truly experience a WWE game like that. Steam Deck is nice. I just honestly prefer playing on the Switch still. I just don't know what it is. The Switch just is a nicer handheld to incorporate into daily use. I honestly feel like when I want to play PC games, I'm kind of just gonna play it on my PC. But basically, yeah, yap session over. This video is probably way longer than it needs to be. Would you guys be excited for WWE 2K26 coming to the Switch too? I know a lot of people who are opposed to this because I posted something online about this. They're thinking it's gonna hold back the game on PS5. It's not going to. If anything, if you want to point the finger at what system will hold back the games in the future, you can point at the Xbox Series S and gaming PCs, ironically. Because yeah, the current systems that are out right now are basically just mid-tier gaming PCs, so they're developing it so that lower-end PCs can run it. That's what you can blame. Alright guys, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button and hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I wish I could have it my way. I don't really know who's to blame, but you said you were giving me space, then forever went away. Hey, at night in the garden I roam. Since the day you left, no flowers grow. My skin's gone purple from the cold.